In the last video we discussed about the process of initiation in case of DNA replication. In this video we'll see how the elongation of the DNA strand occurs. So we'll discuss about the elongation today. Suppose this is the DNA molecule. As we all know, this is a double stranded structure. So this is one strand which goes from 3' to the 5' end here, and this is the other strand which goes from 5' to the 3' end here, because we know there are two strands of the DNA molecule are anti-parallel to each other. So now in the process of initiation we have already opened up these strands. So this is the structure now. Now we have got this area where the process of DNA replication can occur. So first let's see how the two nucleotides are bonded to each other in the case of DNA molecule formation or the DNA long chain formation. Suppose this is one nucleotide, this is the nitrogenous base, this is deoxyribose sugar which has got the OH group at carbon number 3, this is the phosphate group which is attached to carbon number 5 of the pentose sugar. So this is one nucleotide, and these are the other nucleotides which are present as raw material. So this raw material always occurs in the form of triphosphates. This can be, suppose we are synthesizing a DNA strand, then these nucleotides will be deoxythymidine triphosphate or deoxyadenosine triphosphate or deoxycytidine triphosphate or deoxyguanosine triphosphates. This is when we are making the other strand of our DNA molecule. So this is the pre-existing nucleotide or any nucleotide. Let's see how the phosphodiester bond gets formed. This is the already attached nucleotide, and this is the new nucleotide which is coming as the raw material in the form of triphosphate. So what happens? The OH group which is already attached to the carbon number 3 of the pre-existing nucleotide sugar subunit, it forms a nucleophilic attack on alpha phosphate group of the next nucleotide, so that this chain breaks from here and you get a pyrophosphate group removed from this site. So ultimately now we are left with nucleoside, monophosphate and a pyrophosphate group. This pyrophosphate group is attacked by pyrophosphatase enzyme which forms two inorganic phosphates from one molecule of pyrophosphate, and in this process energy is released. This energy is utilized in the formation of phosphodiester bond in between the carbon number 3 of the sugar subunit of pre-existing nucleotide with the carbon number 5 of the next nucleotide. So we get to form a phosphodiester bond between carbon number 3 and carbon number 5 here. So this is how you get a chain of nucleotides on the other side. Let's see it again. When we synthesize the DNA strand, the raw material is always in the form of triphosphates. So these can be deoxythymidine triphosphate, deoxyadenosine triphosphate, deoxyguanosine triphosphate or deoxycytidine triphosphate. These triphosphates come, and the OH group of the pre-existing nucleotide gives nucleophilic attack at alpha phosphate group of the next nucleotide, so that pyrophosphate group gets broken, which is further attacked by enzyme pyrophosphatase, and you get to form the two inorganic phosphates, and energy is released in this process, which is utilized in the formation of phosphodiester bonds here between the carbon number 3 of the pre-existing nucleotide and the carbon number 5 of the next nucleotide. So this is how you get to form the phosphate sugar backbone, and these nitrogenous bases form the hydrogen bonds with the nitrogenous bases of the parent DNA single strand. So this is how you get to synthesize the DNA strand on the other side. So let's see about certain salient points. First thing is, you never make the DNA strand from the start, rather you need a RNA primer. You need a RNA primer first. So suppose this is the RNA primer. In the case of E. coli, this primer is synthesized by the enzyme primase, and in the case of eukaryotes, there is enzyme known as DNA polymerase alpha. This DNA polymerase alpha has got primase as its subunit. So DNA polymerase alpha synthesizes the RNA primer in the case of eukaryotes. So what is the difference between DNA strand and RNA primer? In the case of RNA primer, you don't have thymine as the nitrogenous base. Rather, in place of thymine, you always have uracil as the nitrogenous base. So now what will the raw material in the case of synthesis of RNA primer? It will be UTP, that is uridine triphosphate, or ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, or GTP, that is guanosine triphosphate, or CTP, that is cytosine triphosphate. So first difference was you don't have thymine as the nitrogenous base in the case of RNA. In place of thymine, you always have uracil. Second difference is, see here we are not writing deoxy. In the case of DNA molecule raw material, we are always writing deoxy. That means the sugar present here is ribose in place of deoxyribose. So this is how you first form a short strand of RNA. Over this short strand, then you can continue with the formation of the DNA strand. So this short strand is called RNA primer. This is our RNA primer. This primer is around 10 nucleotide base pair long. This primer is around 10 nucleotide long. So this is our RNA primer. It's made by primase enzyme. So now what happens? Now the second enzyme comes. The second enzyme is enzyme responsible for the synthesis of the DNA strand. This enzyme is DNA polymerase 3 in the case of E. coli. This enzyme is DNA polymerase 3. Suppose this is the DNA strand. This DNA strand synthesis is using deoxynucleoside triphosphates as the raw material, and the enzyme is DNA polymerase 3. So now this DNA chain synthesis is going on like this continuously. This was our RNA primer. Now we are synthesizing the DNA strand, and as we know, this is the enzyme helicase, which is unwinding the DNA double helix at the corners. So more and more of the DNA double strand keep on getting separated, and continuously DNA polymerase 3 is going to synthesize DNA strand on the other side. So this strand is known as leading strand. This is leading strand, because the synthesis of this strand is continuous. As we know that the two strands of the DNA molecule are always anti-parallel, so this end is 5' end and this end is 3' end. This is 5' end and this is a 3' end, and this strand is getting synthesized in a continuous fashion and it's known as the leading strand. It's the leading strand. So let's see what happens on the other side. So in this side also the synthesis of DNA primer takes place like this. Then over this DNA primer, the enzyme DNA polymerase 3 synthesizes the DNA strand. Suppose now it has unwound like this. First there will be a synthesis of RNA primer. Over this RNA primer you get to synthesize your DNA strand. Let's see what's the difference. When you are synthesizing this strand, ultimately a time comes when this enzyme DNA polymerase meets the already synthesized RNA primer. So it stops its function here. So in this way you get to synthesize the small molecules of the DNA strand on the other strand. So these small portions of DNA strand are known as, which are synthesized over their own RNA primers, are known as Okazaki fragments. Okazaki fragments. So in this way you ultimately get to have so many Okazaki fragments on the other strand. So the strand which is moving towards the unwinding portion, that strand is known as leading strand, and the strand which is moving away from the portion getting unwounded is known as the lagging strand. Lagging strand is made up of many Okazaki fragments. So this is our lagging strand. So this is how DNA replication occurs. First there is a synthesis of RNA primer by enzyme primase, then enzyme DNA polymerase 3 comes in the case of E. coli, and this enzyme DNA polymerase synthesizes the new DNA strand over the RNA primer, and this strand gets synthesized in the continuous fashion and it moves towards the ends being already getting separated. On the other side what happens, when this portion, these two strands are getting unwounded and you get to have a single strand of DNA here, you form a small RNA primer by enzyme RNA primase. Then this DNA polymerase 3 synthesizes a small length of DNA strand over these RNA primers, but this synthesis stops when you get to meet the already synthesized RNA primers. So in this way you get to have so many small RNA plus DNA fragments. These fragments are known as Okazaki fragments and the strand is called lagging strand. So what is the length of these Okazaki fragments? See, this primer is always 10 nucleotide long, and these fragments, this DNA strands are 1000 to 2000 nucleotide long in the case of E. coli, and in the case of humans these Okazaki fragments are around 200 nucleotides long. So the length of the Okazaki fragments in humans is much shorter than the length of Okazaki fragments in the case of E. coli. So this is how you are synthesizing the leading strand and lagging strand. So what are the enzymes in the case of eukaryotes or humans which help in the synthesis of DNA in leading strand and lagging strand. Leading strand is synthesized by enzyme. This leading strand is synthesized by enzyme DNA polymerase epsilon, and this lagging strand, it's synthesized by enzyme DNA polymerase delta. So epsilon works on the leading strand and the delta works on the lagging strand. Now this, our friend, this enzyme helicase, it's always unwinding the two ends of the, this whole portion is called replication bubble. This portion, this whole portion, opened portion of DNA is called replication bubble, and these two ends of the replication bubble, these are actually like this, its shape is like this, like the forks. So these are called replication forks. The two ends of the replication bubble are called replication forks. So this enzyme helicase, it's causing unwinding of the DNA double helix at the ends, and this enzyme always utilizes energy. So it uses energy from ATP and it unwinds the DNA duplex at ends of the replication bubble. So as the replication is moving forward, more and more portion of the DNA duplex is getting separated, and you get to form the leading strand as well as the lagging strand. So this is how you form the two new DNA strands from the two old DNA parental strands. So this replication is bidirectional. It's moving towards this side also and towards this side also. So replication is always bidirectional, and it's starting from the origin of replication. There is only one origin of replication in the case of E. coli, and there are many origins of replication in the case of eukaryotes. One more point is, when you are unwinding the DNA double strand at the corners of the replication bubble, you get to form the supercoils. See, if you are moving these two strands apart, here these strands get under torsion and they supercoil over itself. Such kinds of coils are called the supercoiling. So this problem of supercoiling of DNA is solved by enzymes topoisomerases. Topoisomerases. These topoisomerases actually changes the topology of DNA molecule. These are of two types, topoisomerase 1 and topoisomerase 2. 1 and 2. Topoisomerase 1, actually suppose this is the DNA molecule, topoisomerase 1 can cut one strand of the DNA molecule at the supercoils, so it will cut one strand, then the other strand will move through the nick in the first strand, and then this portion will be ligated. So it will cut this strand from here, and the other strand of the DNA double helix will move through this nick, and again this end will be sealed. So such kind of enzymes are called DNA topoisomerase 1. What is DNA topoisomerase 2? DNA topoisomerase 2 is capable of making nicks in both the strands of the DNA molecule. So both the strands of the DNA duplex will be cut, and the other portion of the supercoil, see, this molecule is not tangled like this. These two ends are cut, so this strand is now separated here, and the other DNA duplex can move through this cut portion, and again these ends are sealed. Let's see it again. How the topoisomerase 2 functions. In the case of supercoils, you have got 2 DNA double helix like this. This molecule is coiled over itself like this. So there are 2 DNA double helix. So you will cut one DNA double helix, you will make the nix here, and the other DNA double helix will move through the cut portion of first strand, and again these ends will be sealed. So this is how you remove the problem of supercoils. One special kind of topoisomerase 2 is DNA gyrase. DNA gyrase actually introduces negative supercoils. See, supercoils can be negative or positive. These are called positive supercoils when the direction of coiling is same as that of the original strand, and these are called negative supercoilings when the direction of coiling is opposite to that of the strand, actual strand. So this DNA gyrase, which is present in bacteria, which is a type of topoisomerase 2, actually introduces the negative supercoils. So when this process of replication occurs and you introduce the positive supercoils here, these are actually cancelled by the negative supercoils which had been already introduced in the DNA molecule by DNA gyrase. So this is how the process of replication becomes easy with the help of DNA gyrase. Now there are many drugs called quinolones which act on the enzyme DNA gyrase. Ciprofloxacin, norfloxacin, so many floxacins known as the quinolones, they actually incapacitate DNA gyrase. So the process of replication becomes difficult and the bacterial cells dies. So this is how these quinolones actually act. So now we have seen that in the case of replication elongation, first there is a synthesis of DNA primer by the enzyme primase in the case of prokaryotes, and DNA polymerase alpha which has got the primase as its subunit in the case of eukaryotes. Then in the case of E. coli, DNA polymerase 3 comes, and in case of eukaryotes, leading strand is synthesized by DNA polymerase epsilon and the lagging strand is synthesized by DNA polymerase delta. So you get to form the two strands. So but in the case of lagging strand and in case of leading strand, actually you have to remove the RNA primer. So how you remove the RNA primer? So that you get to have the complete DNA molecule in the newly synthesized strands. These RNA primers are removed by the enzyme RNase in the case of prokaryotes, and RNase H and flap endonucleases 1 in the case of eukaryotes.